What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 19 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Now, guys, I fucked up.
What'd you do?
Last week was episode 18.
Yeah.
This show's legal, and I didn't even make a reference.
Ah, the pure one.
It's so upsetting. Yeah, Kevin.
Maybe you're
brought
growing
it up.
up.
To me.
Do you think maybe you're growing up?
Definitely not that.
You growing up a little?
No. Well, now the thing is, now this is 19, so now this is a whole new thing. 19 is when it really starts to get good. You know?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The coolest dudes in video games are joining me today: Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Yes, if you got the other Patreon exclusive episode of the Game Over Greggy show, Colin is still trying to clean his glasses.
Yeah. There's some real issues happening here.
Clean.
Now, Colin, you know that oil and water don't mix.
I heard that.
You know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as everybody else.
Shit happens, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know the Kind of Funny Games cast, it's our video game show. And you can get it over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. But if you want it early, oh yeah, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, pay $1, and you can get it early. That's not right.
No, no.
I was almost right. I was almost
right.
good about stuff.
The dollar gets you the exclusive episode
Dollar gets
every
the
month.
exclusive one. That's going to be a good one this month. I can tell you that.
Oh, right. We can't tell who it is.
We can't tell you, but it's
Can't
going to be.
tell
It's definitely going to be worth the
It's
dollar.
definitely going to be worth the dollar. Wait, was it? I thought we weren't putting that up as an exclusive. Well, right there, we're talking about the same thing, but I thought we were just putting it up as a special one-off.
You know what? They're going to love everything.
Regardless of what happens in the exclusive episode, you're going to shit your pants and call your mom.
It's going to be damn good. It's going to be damn good. And also, exclusive episode is going to be good.
Yeah.
For sure. But if you want to get the show early, you can go over to Patreon. $5 will get you the audio. $10 will get you the video. And let me tell you, that's what you're going to want to do.
Okay.
Because it's damn good looking at these faces.
Yeah.
Or you can just wait, and you'll get it for free the next week after it's broken up topic by topic on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. On that Friday, you get the full episode, and you get the MP3 on iTunes and all those other podcast services. I'm going to get this one day.
That was good.
It was
Last
good,
week's was
but
good.
I fucked up just with the dollar thing. But I tell you, one day, it's just going to be fucking.
Here's what I want to talk about. Again, not to keep making references. Maybe you only listen to the Kind of Funny Gamescast, and that's fine. But if you listen to the Game Over Greggy show, you heard Colin giving Kevin over there he's the opposite of a ballerina rigmarole.
Yes.
But Kevin does these things to stay out of frame sometimes, where he's like, he was pressed up against the wall a second ago, like slithering over there.
Snake.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like he tries.
Like a broke down solid
Yeah,
snake.
can you imagine that? Just a short of Kevin as Solid
Sure.
Snake.
I can see it. I can see the eye patch and
The not so solid snake.
bandana. Yeah. But the thing about it is, and I'm talking about Metal Gear 4 with the eye patch. Come on, don't try to throw it in my face. Is that it's weird that in these instances where he's trying to be quiet and trying not to ruin the show, he doesn't do the stumble thing. But when it's just we're setting up a Let's Play and nothing's happening, that's when he's always 3 seconds away from destroying everything in the house.
I feel like Kevin Kevin doesn't move quickly, but he moves at a normal speed. But I feel like the directions in which he falls and stumbles indicates that he has incredible inertia. Like Kevin has a body that's always in movement. You know what I mean? And in some weird way.
Don't forget, he did beat Sean Finnegan in a foot race at IGN before we left. So yeah,
Something about that's true.
That happened.
Yeah. But one of my favorite things about Kevin, and yes, we're going down this rabbit hole, is that he always needs to be, in his mind, as efficient as possible, even if it's not efficient for everyone else in the room.
Right.
So it's like he will always need to make sure that if his laptop's somewhere, that his freaking power cord needs to be wrapped around the foot of all 4 feet of the table to make sure that it like perfectly gets to where he's sitting, so that it doesn't get in his way, but it's literally like on my lap, and I'm like, why are you doing this, Kevin?
Yeah.
And then without fail, he'll trip on it, and it'll pull the headphones, it'll pull everything. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he always takes his headphones and he like puts them on the side of the table, and it's just like, Kevin, don't do that, because you fucking knock him over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That this is Kevin's normal state. I don't presume to know Kevin like you know Kevin. I've known Kevin just for a short time, but it always seems like his normal state is in a state. This is what I was talking about with inertia. Like his normal state is just that in which he is always stumbling. Mm-hmm. That's the way the world had made him, and the universe finds him in every single day. And I can understand. Not everyone can be as graceful as me.
I think you need to reintroduce this show. This is the first episode, the only episode of the Kind of Funny Kevin cast.
Oh my God. That'll happen.
Okay.
Anthony Carbone is going to make that.
Oh, right.
Right. And it's going to be a weekly show of him talking about Kevin.
All right.
Kevin. I mean, Kevin's got a lot of skills and upside. It's it reminds me. Not everyone can be nimble, like a cat.
Yeah, no.
I'm a nimble like a cat. And Cheryl always tells me she likes to throw my pillow off the bed at me, and I often catch it. Yeah. And then she's like, "Oh, you're very proud of yourself for how quick you are." And I'm like, "Yes." See, I'm quick like that, but I don't have the technical skills that Kevin has. See, so there's a little bit of a difference there. little bit different.
That's why
Kevin can use a soundboard, he can use a camera, but he falls a lot. I can catch things in the air using my goaltending prowess, but you wouldn't find me editing a video.
True.
Mm-hmm. You understand? Kevin, you get it.
I think I get it.
All right, guys. So there's a lot of things have been happening in video games recently.
Yeah.
And this last week, we got some teases a little bit last month for this, but it finally happened. We got the spiritual successor to Banjo Kazooie.
Oh yes.
Thank God.
You might have heard about this. It's called Yooka-Laylee. It had a little Kickstarter go up, and it's breaking all types of records and stuff. Fastest funded game ever. It got 1,000,006 hours.
Suck it, Tim Schafer.
Was it $1 million or $1 million? Was it?
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah.
So like 700,000 pounds.
Yeah, and so it's a pretty big deal, and it's kind of made up by former Rare employees and stuff. It's a kind of the dream team of people that you'd want to be making a Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie spiritual sequel.
Yeah.
And it has the guy doing the music's the guy that did the music from the Donkey Kong Country series, David Wise, which is fucking awesome music, and that's so perfect and all this. And people are very excited about this. We got to see some like very early gameplay footage of it. We can see the characters, the logo treatment, and all this stuff. And they're nailing it. Everything about it is perfect.
Killing it.
Mm-hmm. Killing it. My question to you guys, do you care about this game specifically? Also, do you care about 3D platformers? Do you think that they have a place in 2015 to be coming out? Is this a unique thing? And is this just a nice little is this the future of retro revivals? Like, we've seen a lot of the 8-bit. We've seen a lot of the 16-bit. They were talking that there's going to be a 64-bit mode in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So where dumbs it down and stuff. And I think that's cool. But does this matter?
So to take it the first, do I care about this game? Now, I'm being very honest, so don't throw it in my face. No. Might I down the road? Maybe. We talked about the Kickstarter on Colin and Greg Live. We went and did the thing. It didn't. I think they're cute characters or whatever, but I was never a Banjo fan. Like, Banjo Kazooie never spoke to me, so I'm really not like, oh, this is what I've been craving. But I'm trying not to hold my just never caring, my unabashed uncaring of Banjo Kazooie against this game. Because if they were to say, not Naughty Dog or whatever, but if somebody was to make another Jak and Daxter, right? Like, I'd be interested in playing that if it was more like Precursor's Legacy or whatever. I'm talking about, third person adventure, you know what I mean? And so I'm going to keep an eye on this one, but from the jump, no, I'm not super into it. I'm not super excited. Like, it's not doing anything for me. When Nuts and Bolts came out and everyone at IGN tried to convince himself that was a great game, I was like, I don't like this. What are you talking about, Brudvig? You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't a thing for me. And it's just not a franchise that speaks to me. So I don't want to hold it against this. But like, is the era of these games over or whatever? Like, it's been gone a while. I feel like you haven't seen anybody come out and really commit to this in a long time. That's interesting. I'm interested to see what happens in this genre.
I mean, what was the last one? I think like Ratchet and Clank probably, and like that whole thing where there's like the Ratchet and Sly Cooper and
Sly 4 might be
Sly
4 might be the last one.
Yeah,
of real like AAA consequence.
Yeah, I mean, of course there's Mario. But
that's
different.
Well, but there hasn't been a Mario 3D platformer since Galaxy 2, and that was 2000.
There has. I mean, the 3D World and
that's not really a
3D,
3D.
but there's still 3D platformers. Though.
Yeah, that's still like a 2.5D kind of like to me. I mean, not literally 2.5D, but that's like kind of a half step. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, it is still a 3D platformer.
Sure.
But not in the way we're thinking of this with open worlds.
Like, these are more
stuff.
like.
Run up to that tree.
Yeah,
hit it with your tail.
Really.
Yep, collectathons. Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Whenever I think of
3D
these fucking
platforms,
games,
I think of running up to trees.
Run up and hit the fucking tree. That you 30 platformer. That's part of it. You think you're gonna hit a tree in this game, Colin? Guarantee you will.
Probably hit a tree in this game. Now, do I care about this game? No, not at all. But that comes from someone who I didn't care about Banjo Kazooie when it came out either. So it was like I was just in a different space in gaming in that time. So I don't have the love of that era of Rare games that other people do. And I appreciate that people, and that's not necessarily, I like 007 and stuff, but, there's that portion of Rare's history is something that people very fondly remember. I remember more of like the Donkey Kong Country era and stuff like that, something a little bit before where like that was their stride. They hit their stride. A few things hit me with this. First of all, the name Yooka-Laylee is awful. I know that some people like that name, and I know it's Project Yooka-Laylee, like with the U, like the instrument. I think that name is awful. Like I have to say that like it's interesting, and I might be in the minority on that because I have not seen many people say that, but I hate that name.
Really, I think it's awesome. I think it's so perfect for what this is.
For what it is, it totally and what it looks like. It all sounds very cutie and syrupy. Like I think it fits fine.
Yeah, it might fit. I just like when I heard that, I was like, I look at it, and I'm like, ugh, like
yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. Games have bad names all the time, and that's totally an opinion-based thing anyway. Are 3D platformers dead, or do they belong anymore? Of course they belong. They have a place. I think that it would be hypocritical of me to say, as someone who doesn't really care much for the genre anymore, and really never did care much for the genre, that I love Mighty Number 9 or something like that, and that has a place, but that's very silly. I mean, I think this is actually going to have, from the Kickstarter alone, obvious as the day is long, this is going to be a much bigger deal than something like Mighty Number 9. So it'd be hypocritical of me to say, like, well, I want all these 2D Shovel Knight-like platformers, and I want my Japanese role-playing games from isometric view and all this kind of stuff, but I don't want, I don't think this play. That's stupid. That said, I think the 3D platform is of a place in time. I think that 3D platformers proliferated in the mid to late 90s because that was the most natural way we were going to explore the polygonal world that we were given for the very first time. So that made the most sense. And until we figured out that shooters and everything else can basically do the same thing, this is what we did. We made cartoony, blocky fucking platformers that people ate up and loved, whether it was Mario 64 or whether it was Banjo Kazooie or whatever it was.
And I wonder then what's different, because I feel like you and I came of age in that time when I always talk about the Blockbuster Game Pass when I'd go there and just rent game after game, and there were so many of these, and I feel like that's why I'm satiated. I don't need another one of these, you know what I mean? I'm not craving this because it's come and gone already for me. And even Ratchet and Clank, right, where I'm like, A Crack in Time is probably the best Ratchet game ever. And I couldn't even fucking get through it because I was so sick of Ratchet and Clank. Not even the genre, just the fact that there were so many Ratchet and Clank games. You know what I mean? So I'm just done personally, and I wonder where we get into the people. I know Marty over at IGN he's been wanting this. He loves these kind of games. This is what he's into. You know what I mean? He's super stoked that it's back. And it's just that interesting thing. You can never say why somebody likes something and the other, but this is something that I liked these kind of games. I enjoyed these kind of games, but I closed the book and pushed it away, whereas other people are still craving.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's me. 3D platformers that's my genre.
You won't buy a Vita until Crash is on there. Crash Bandicoot.
That's one of my things, and it's just
I
love that so much in 2D platformers as well. But 3D platformers, I mean, that was growing up in the 90s as a kid around 10 years old. That's perfect. You know what I mean? There was so many, whether it was Banjo or Rocket Robot on Wheels or
that was Sucker Punch's first game.
There's so much weird shit like that. That everyone has Gex, Spyro, Crash, Mario, all these things that you just played, and they're so good and so amazing, and Rayman 2, and it's we haven't seen that for a while.
3D.
Yeah, all the
arguably the worst game ever.
But there's so many games, but for me, I think one of my greatest regrets when it comes to gaming is I never played Banjo ever. Either one of them. And it's that's crazy to me, and it's blasphemy because for the type of games I like, everyone's Tim, you would love these things.
Yeah.
And I just never did, and I was waiting for HD releases and nothing ever happened. But I want it. And but I remember I rented it one time from Blockbuster and I was turned off to it. And the reason for that
You hate dog bears.
No, it's the collectathon-y stuff. I wasn't into that. I liked the Mario for the obstacle stuff and for the platforming. Crash is kind of the same way. Crash in a lot of ways is more like Mario than Mario 64 is. It's more like Mario Bros. than Mario 64 is, where it's just get to the end of the level.
Sure.
There's obstacles. Get there. Mario 64 was kind of starting the whole collectathon thing, but then Banjo just fucking was go, there's a million things to collect. And then Donkey Kong 64, which Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 specifically, some of my favorite games ever. 3, good.
Yeah.
But then Donkey Kong 64 came out, and a lot of people have fond memories of that game. I hated that game because it was just all it was collecting things for no fucking reason.
Well, I mean, I think that this, from what I've read about Yooka-Laylee, and one of the selling points of the game is that it is a collectathon.
Well, what's interesting to me about it is, I read their Kickstarter. They even say we have the guy working on our team that made all the collectathon stuff in Donkey Kong 64. We've had a stern talking to with him, and everything in this game now has a reason of why you're collecting it.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that I like. Just collect all these things. A big problem I had with Mario 64 was the blue coins that you had to get.
Oh, I loved that.
That's fucking horrible. There's just no reason for a lot of it. It's just they're just there.
Peach
it's just an extra challenge. That's all.
Yeah, Peach needed them to do laundry.
They don't have in-suite laundry at the Mushroom Kingdom, so I didn't know if you knew that about that.
No.
It's very old, pipes, and it's all.
It's a whole rigmarole.
But that's how Mario Sunshine ties together with it.
But Ratchet and Clank is one of those series that I love, and I agree with you. It's just there's just too many of them.
Yeah.
I luckily kind of got into it in the right way, where I played the first one, didn't play any of the others on PS2, and then came into the PS3
Sure.
version, so it's like I didn't get overwhelmed by them.
Sure.
So I still think of it fondly, and I still want more of it because I didn't get beat over the head with it.
Right.
But I liked those games because it also kind of had the like. It wasn't so much a collectathon as much as it was a platformer and actiony, shootery things. That was fun. That was the extra layer there. I'm interested by this because I feel like it's a passion thing. So it's being made to be a very good collectathon. Like I feel like there will be a lot of thought put into the things you're collecting and why you're collecting them and how you're collecting them and all of that. And it just excites me to see a 3D platformer being built from the ground up for next gen. Like not Nintendo though, because Nintendo's always going to do their thing, but like for PS4 and Xbox One. And I think that I'm gonna play this game. Like I know that. And like, yeah, it looks like super kiddie and stuff. I love it. I think they're nailing it. I love the name. I love the logo. I love the character designs. This is what I envisioned this game being.
Yeah.
And even without having played Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie, like I think this is gonna be good.
I'm shocked that you're so excited about it having not played Banjo, because Banjo's a really well-remembered game, I think for good reason, again, from the kind of golden era of what Rare was doing with 64 when they were still kind of in the fold. There's a lot of reasons, though, that this game is exciting or interesting beyond like the continuation of the Banjo-Kazooie kind of legacy, because the look and feel, I don't want to say the feel because we don't know what the game feels like. The look of the game, the logo and all this, it has the I dare you to fucking sue me kind of look, which is one of those things that I really like, because it reminds me a lot of Mighty Number 9, where it's like, you're not going to do anything. Like, you're not going to give them what they want, so I'm going to do it. And just like Inafune's the guy to do that with a Mega Man clone, these guys are the guys that do that with a Banjo clone, so they're going to do it. The other exciting thing is that a lot of these guys peeled off of Rare a long time ago. So, Rare has been owned by Microsoft and has been ruined by Microsoft for quite a while now. But if you look at these guys' credentials, like these are the guys that worked on like the deep cut. And I don't want to say deep cuts in terms of like their obscure games, but the deep cuts in terms of like how long ago some of these guys were working on Rare games, whether they're Donkey Kong Country, which started in like 94, 95, or whether you're talking about the N64 games, which concluded in 2000. So these guys have been peeled away from that era and those kinds of games, some of them for a long time.
Yeah. Some of them, though, going all the way up to some of the last good Rare games like Viva Pinata, which people love.
Yeah, and that was, Viva Pinata was, I would say, people do love that game, and for good reason. Maybe the last thing Rare did that anyone cared about.
Yep.
And that was a long time ago. That was almost 10 years ago, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. But, what's exciting is that these guys are going to get back to their roots, and the Platonic, whatever they're called, like this is going to be their first game, and they've worked together in the past. It's not like a hodgepodge of, you're going to find your talent, you're raising your money. It's like a kind of a proof of concept. Like these guys are going to work with each other, and and just like they did in the past. And I think that there's great reason to be excited about finding that, again, I hate using this term because it's so corporate, but the synergistic kind of like relationship that they all have had with each other, making AAA core games that have sold millions of copies. So it's not an unproven team. These guys are like, it's like going back like for one last hurrah for some of these guys probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it, and I'm interested in it because I'm interested to see how it captures the essence of those old games. And I like playing new games that feel old. I mean, that's why I like Shovel Knight. So it's like, that is the reason why I like Shovel Knight. So, because it feels like it came from 1990, and I'm sure that Yooka-Laylee is going to feel like it came from 1999 or 2000.
And that's so cool. I think that's what's I'm most excited about for this, is the fact that like I never really kind of imagined that we'd get a 3D like that generation game, from like PS1 to PS2 era like type of game, and that's so fucking awesome that we're gonna start seeing retro games based on the next generation of kids growing up playing games.
Yeah, and it makes me feel old. That Banjo's a retro game. I remember when Banjo came out clear as day. I was like in 11th grade. Mm-hmm. It's like not that old, but that is the retro. That is retro now for a lot of people, and a lot of people that kind of look fondly back on that. And it is, when you think about it, the natural evolution. I don't think that we would have seen the pixel based, like kind of sprite based things that we've been seeing were natural, because that shit's awesome. But like this shit can be awesome too, and so it makes a lot of sense to have that evolution, especially with a lot of the things from that era not having held up in an aesthetic way very well. Like everything that inspires Mighty Number 9 or Shovel Knight still holds up. And I don't think you can really say the same about some of the games from the 3D platform era when everything was polygonal and it was fucking ugly as hell. And people were still really figuring out how to do things, because by the time we got to the 8-bit era, people forget that we had already dealt with other consoles, or developers had dealt with other consoles and figured out a lot of these problems. And so that is the natural evolution. This was like these 3D platformers were shown like their raw state. And as I wrote in the history of Naughty Dog that I wrote for IGN, like what was so funny is that no one even knew what to do with those games. Like in isolation, Sega, Nintendo, and Sony all came up with totally different solutions to the same problem.
Well,
And that's what
Sega didn't come up with a solution.
Well, they had Knights was one solution,
No.
and then what Knights was kind of, its own kind of track-based, more linear but open game, and then Mario was like a completely open game that lacked textures because they didn't have the room, and then Crash was a textural heavy game that was linear. Those were their solutions, and that was like what was so fascinating. They had no idea, no one knew what the other hand was doing, and so this won.
Yeah.
And clearly, and so I'm excited about it. I'm also interested in what it means for Kickstarter because it seemed like Kickstarter's been waning quite a bit in terms of games. I mean, games have not been getting funded and at the same clip as they were when Double Fine was using them. These guys fucking murdered it. It wasn't even like this game came and got funded. These guys are going to get millions of dollars more than they
got
asked
$1 million in 6 hours, and like that's crazy. Like, I think one of the, and I might be wrong about some of this, but I think the most funded thing was the Veronica Mars movie, and that got $1 million in 4 hours. And that's crazy. Like, that's not that far off.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never thought.
Well, how many people have been waiting for this forever? You know what I mean? Forever people have been waiting for a spiritual successor, if not just another Banjo, right?
Yeah.
So to have that kind of power and oomph behind what you're doing, you have these people who are behind the games come out and do it. It's interesting.
It is. I'm still surprised, though. I know there's a lot, but I didn't know there was that much.
Yeah.
Like, it does surprise me that, I mean, like, something like Mighty Number 9, like Mega Man, Banjo Kazooie. I wouldn't necessarily say Banjo's the bigger game. You know what I mean?
It's the more relevant game, though. It's funny how we've seen this evolution in terms of, like, Mighty is a good example where, Mighty Number 9 got a substantial amount of money. And it took time, but they did it, and Inafune did his thing. But this was funded more by people like my age or Greg's age that grew up with these games. And now the people that grew up with Banjo in their formidable years have money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they're going to fund this game. That's the funny thing is that they don't have to go ask their parents anymore. This is like, I'm going to make this fucking happen. And as my own opinions on crowdfunding have kind of ebbed and flowed over time, I mean, this isn't a game that I think couldn't have been published because I think there are probably publishers that are interested in this game maybe before they release it. Maybe they didn't even try to get a publisher. I wonder if this game will get a publisher, which will piss me the fuck off if they do because they don't need it. But this is a game that could have solicited some interest, but they didn't need to do it because the crowd was even more excited and it's more beneficial to them. The funny thing is that this game is probably really a long ways off, but
yeah.
I'm interested to see how this does. And I'm interested to see like what kind of momentum this can create for other Kickstarters that might be coming out in the near future for similar kinds of games.
A Crash.
I want Crash 4.
Well, they're gonna have to get the permission to use that. I am sure Activision is gonna make a Crash game at some point.
At some point. It's gonna come and it's gonna be terrible, Tim. So that's what you can hang your hat on.
I know.